Let's start with something uncomfortable. If your life is increasingly out of sync with people around you, it doesn't automatically mean that you're on the wrong path. In fact, that very feeling shows up right before something is about to change, right before a point that most people never reach. The problem is, almost everyone misreads it. They assume feeling misunderstood is a signal to turn back. What they don't realize is that there are only two situations where this feeling shows up, and one of them changes everything. I'll come back to that. Here's what that phase of your life feels like. Your priorities change, but your environment doesn't. You're starting to take your health, time, or future seriously, and suddenly other conversations feel shallow. People start questioning your choices. Some might even pull away, and some subtly mock it. And that emotional tax is heavier than most people are willing to admit. It's heavier than I was willing to admit back then. So instead of failing loudly, you're failing quietly to still get the validation. And that's where the doubt creeps in. Am I just disciplined or am I obsessive? Am I focused or am I isolating myself? Am I early or am I simply wrong? Most people don't get an answer to that question because they escape the discomfort before it resolves. Which is why they never find out which side they were actually on. And that's the exact thing that I want to prevent with this video. Because for the longest time, I wasted time by being stuck in this cycle. And there's a distinction that matters. I need to be precise. There was a period in my own life where everything felt heavier socially before it felt better materially. My routines did get stricter, my circle got smaller, my life made less sense to other people, and there were moments where I genuinely thought that I might be sabotaging myself. I'd be calling with my father and he'd be like, maybe don't do that. Temper yourself. Don't do too much. Go to the gym 6 times a week. Why would you go 6 times? Maybe do less. Don't do too much. Don't do too much. Be a bit more normal. And I would leave these calls feeling crazy for what I was doing. You'd like someone to applaud what you're doing, but instead this is what you're getting. And that feeling would really, really hinder my progress. But what clarified my situation, it wasn't motivation. It was a filter. And once I understood that filter, the doubt disappeared almost overnight. And I'm going to give you that exact filter later. But first, let's understand the trade that you're actually making. Everyone wants exceptional results, but very few people want exceptional inputs. And here's a trade that no one escapes. You can have short-term belonging or long-term differentiation. You rarely get both at the same time. So either you fit in with the crowd or you stand out. Rather, you're cast out. You don't belong. Belonging, it feels good because it removes friction. You get agreement, you get validation, you get social ease, you get all the things that you'd like from the people around you. But it also sets a ceiling. If your input looks normal, your outputs will look normal. And that's not a personal failure, it's just statistical reality. Most people unconsciously choose comfort for that very reason. And this is where the path splits. Now you understand the trade that you're making, but why does being the exception make us feel so uncomfortable? It's simply because your brain is wired for social safety. So the lack thereof, when approval drops, your nervous system interprets it as a threat. And logically, that's something you want to avoid because that's how one survives. People questioning your choices feels like evidence that you are doing something wrong. But in reality, it's often just evidence that your decisions doesn't fit their lens. It doesn't fit their priorities. It doesn't fit the way that they live their life. And that's a subtle distinction. However, many people miss it, and missing it costs years, which basically means that not all resistance is a warning. Some resistance is a toll that costs you, which means that we need to find out how to tell which one of the two that we are paying. And that is what we do through the filter that I mentioned earlier. This filter changed things for me overnight because it resolves the very confusion that you have with this process. Discomfort alone, it means nothing. Discomfort paired with structure means something. So ask yourself this: is your life harder in ways that logically align with where you want to go? Are you sacrificing comfort for skill, leverage, health, freedom? Are you building something measurable even if no one sees it yet? If yes, being misunderstood is completely fine and it isn't a flaw. It's a side effect of what you want to be and where you want to go. If not, then the discomfort isn't growth. It's drifting. Most people never make this distinction, and that's why they're confused. What you have to keep in mind, though, during this process and during this time of change, that identity comes before results. Results lag identity. You become disciplined, and then you look successful. You become focused before people start respecting your time. You change internally long before it reflects back on the world. The gap is where most people quit. It's not because they lack the ability, it's because they demand the proof too early. There's one specific moment when this gap starts to close, and that's the moment I'll explain next. This is the gap where most people quit. It's not because they lack abilities, because they demand proof too early. For a long, long time, you're going to sit in an auditorium and there's nobody else going to clap for you but yourself, because people won't understand what you're doing. People won't get what you're doing. They will support you when you're an underdog. They will support you when you get the results because then they see something tangible. But the in between is the space where you need it most, and you're only gonna have yourself. You're going to be the exception, so you're going to be different from everybody else, and they won't understand you. Therefore, it's illogical to expect anyone but yourself to understand and validate what you're doing. But there's one specific moment where this gap starts to close, and I'll explain that next. That moment is when effort compounds into evidence. As I said, the results is when people come around. So once you understand that the only moment that the gap starts to close is when the results come. At first, people are confused. Then they might be curious. But when you start doing your thing and you start living it, they go quiet. Because you're doing the thing that they simply don't understand. You're doing too much. Why would you do that? Maybe do less of that. That's too much. Simply don't live your life according to the opinions of people that don't live a life that you would want to have. Once you operate from that frame, you stop doubting yourself and you start trusting in the actions you're taking. Recognize that respect never comes early. It always arrives late. And eventually, they'll start making the same choices that they questioned when you made them at first. It will become their reference because they want the results that you have. This will only happen for people who stay consistent long enough for that reality and those results to speak for them. That is the caveat. You need to stick with it. You need to trust your process. Most people retreat back to familiarity right before that shift happens. We all know that picture of the two gold miners. One is turning around when he's this close, and the other one keeps going, so you know he's going to reach for that gold. Don't stop when you're this close. Keep going. There's a flip side to this coin, and once you flip it, that's when life gets good. So recognize that most men aren't lazy. We're just socially calibrated to avoid asymmetry. We want to fit in. We want to be validated. And you're watching this because something in you already knows that your current situation cannot produce the life that you want. That doesn't make you special. It makes you responsible. And the discomfort you feel is not asking you to quit. It's asking you to decide. Don't wait and make your decision. Start acting. I'll challenge you. For the next 7 days, do one thing daily that aligns with your long-term direction, even if no one understands it and no one validates it. Do it quietly, do it consistently, and don't explain it. Tell me in the comments what you're going to do, and then observe something. Notice how much of your hesitation was never about capability but approval. Once you understand this, you start to make the gains that you want in every aspect of life. And that's the key. Leave a like if you found this video helpful. Comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.